Hey there, safety pros.
Hey, everybody.
Today we're diving deep into needlestick and sharps injuries.
Right.
We've got OSHA's guidance, obviously, but we also want to talk about some of the real world wisdom to really help you all go beyond the compliance.
Absolutely.
And build that safety culture to protect your people. This is Safety One Source.
That's right.
And we're all about giving you the tools and the knowledge to really make a difference out there in the field.
You got it. And we're not just going to repeat regulations to you. We're going to dive into those. We're going to understand the whys behind them.
Yeah.
And really help you to apply these things
Absolutely.
in your workplaces to create a safer work environment.
So listener, grab your coffee. We're about to get sharp on this.
Let's do it.
OSHA's standard 1904.8 gets pretty clear.
Mm-hmm.
If a worker gets poked, sucked, or cut by something sharp, it's contaminated with someone else's blood or other icky stuff, that goes on the record.
Yeah.
What always trips me up is that phrase, other potentially infectious material. What does OSHA mean by that?
Well, they actually give us a pretty specific list.
Okay.
So it includes things like human bodily fluids, tissues, organs, basically anything that you wouldn't want to come into contact with through an open wound.
Yeah, makes sense.
So think about the situations where there is that risk of blood-borne pathogens. They even specifically call out HIV and hepatitis B infected materials.
Oh, wow.
Like lab cultures. So things that, many of our safety professionals are dealing with every day.
Absolutely. Okay, so that kind of clarifies what we need to record. But I bet some people listening are thinking, so every time someone gets a paper cut at work, I'm filling out a form.
Well, not quite. I mean, the key here is that the injury has to be work-related and contaminated to be OSHA recordable.
Okay.
So that paper cut you get at home wrestling with your toddler, not going on the log.
Right.
But if it happens at work and there's potential contamination, different story.
So it's all about the context. But what about situations where the initial injury seems minor, but then things change down the line?
Yeah.
So let's say an employee gets a needle stick.
Mm-hmm.
We record it as first aid, but then weeks later, they're diagnosed with the bloodborne illness.
Right.
What happens to our log then?
Yeah, that's where things get interesting. So OSHA requires you to update the log if there's a new diagnosis related to that initial injury. So you might have to change that classification from first aid to something more serious, like lost work days or restricted duty, right? So accuracy is really key there because this data is really helping us to identify trends and understand risks and ultimately prevent these future incidents.
That's a detail I bet a lot of people miss. It really highlights how this isn't just about mindless compliance. It's about really understanding the purpose behind these regulations and using those regulations to create that safer work environment.
Exactly. And speaking of some tricky scenarios, let's talk about those times when there's no actual injury, but there's potential exposure.
Okay.
So what about a situation where there's a splash of blood, but no cut or puncture?
Yeah.
Do we record that?
That's a tough one. It seems like a hazard, but without an injury doesn't meet the criteria.
It depends. So if that splash leads to a bloodborne illness diagnosis later on, then yes, you record it as an illness. If not, then it really comes down to whether or not it meets other general recording criteria, like needing medical treatment beyond basic first aid.
So even potential exposure could become significant later on. This is a good reminder for our listeners to really document everything thoroughly. Good record keeping is crucial, not just for OSHA compliance, but for protecting your workers and protecting your company.
Absolutely. And this is where that proactive safety culture comes in. OSHA gives us that baseline, but truly safety-conscious organizations go beyond just reacting to these incidents. They're analyzing their data, they're looking for patterns, and they're finding ways to prevent those close calls from becoming actual injuries.
You're right. If one department has way more needle sticks than others, that's a red flag. Time to dig in and figure out why. Is it training? Is it the type of equipment they're using? Are there environmental factors at play?
Right.
Data can help you pinpoint those areas for improvement.
And think of it this way. Recording is about reacting to what's already happened. But analyzing that data allows you to be proactive and prevent those future incidents. That's where a true safety culture shines.
Love it.
Let's put this into practice.
Okay.
Imagine you're a safety manager at a hospital. One of your nurses accidentally sticks themselves with a used needle while giving a patient medication.
Uh-oh.
What are your immediate steps?
Well, first priority is always the person's health, right?
Right.
So make sure that nurse gets immediate medical attention.
Right.
Then we need to launch an investigation to figure out what exactly happened.
Exactly. You want to gather all the details.
Yeah.
What type of needle was it disposed of properly? Were established safety protocols followed? This information isn't just for documentation. It helps you to identify those weak spots in your safety procedures.
It's like detective work. You're not just documenting an incident.
Yeah.
You're trying to understand how to prevent it from happening again.
That's right.
Okay. How about this? You're a safety officer at a construction site.
Okay.
A worker gets cut on a sharp piece of metal, but it's unclear whether there was any blood or other bodily fluids on it.
Right.
How do you handle that ambiguity?
That's where you have to lean toward caution.
Yeah.
Even if you're not 100% sure about contamination, treat it as a potential sharps injury.
Okay.
Follow your procedures for cleaning the wound, report the incident, offer post-exposure prophylaxis if it's deemed necessary.
Better safe than sorry.
Yeah.
Especially when you're dealing with potential bloodborne pathogens.
Absolutely.
It reminds me of something you said earlier about going beyond compliance.
Yeah.
Instead of just reacting to incidents. How can safety pros use these situations as opportunities to build a stronger safety culture?
That's where you really shift from being reactive to proactive. Every incident, even a near miss, is a chance to learn and improve. So let's say you notice a pattern of needle stick injuries in a particular department.
Yeah.
That's a signal to dig deeper.
Okay.
Talk to the employees, observe their work practices, figure out what's contributing to the risk.
You might discover that the sharps containers are located in inconvenient spots.
Right.
Or that the staff needs refresher training on proper disposal techniques.
Totally.
Maybe they're using safety devices they find awkward or difficult to use.
Yeah.
These are things you wouldn't necessarily catch just by looking at the numbers.
Exactly. By involving the employees in the process. You're not just dictating rules.
Yeah.
You're creating a culture where everyone feels empowered to identify hazards and contribute to solutions.
Right.
And that's how you create lasting change.
It's not about top-down enforcement. It's about collaboration and shared responsibility.
Absolutely.
And that's where Safety One Source comes in.
That's right.
They offer more than just training materials and compliance checklists, right?
Absolutely. They understand that every workplace is different. A manufacturing plant has different needs than a doctor's office.
Sure.
And Safety One Source takes that into account.
Okay.
They work with you to identify your unique hazards, your industry challenges, and then they help you to develop a program that actually fits.
So it's not a one-size-fits-all approach.
Right.
They provide tailored solutions based on your specific needs.
Exactly.
That's huge. And they also offer ongoing support, right?
Right.
It's not just a one-time consultation.
Right. They're there to answer your questions, provide updates on regulations, help you to stay ahead of the curve. They're like a partner in your safety journey,
Right.
providing the expertise and resources you need to create a truly safe work environment.
And that brings us to a crucial element that we haven't touched on yet. Yeah. The human factor.
Yes.
We can talk all day about policies and procedures.
Right.
But at the end of the day, it's the people who make the difference.
Yeah. Couldn't agree more. We can't just focus on the technical side of things.
Yeah.
We have to engage our workforce, empower them to speak up about safety concerns, and foster a culture where everyone feels responsible for protecting themselves and their colleagues.
Right.
That's how you create lasting change.
You've got to create an environment where people feel comfortable reporting near misses,
Right.
sharing lessons learned, continuously improving safety practices.
Absolutely.
It's about making safety part of the everyday culture, not just a box to check.
So we've talked about the OSHA rules. We've walked through some tricky scenarios. But let's get practical for a minute.
Okay.
What's the one thing our listener safety pros in the field can do right now to make a difference on this needle stick issue?
If I could give only one piece of advice, it would be this.
Okay.
Go beyond the numbers.
Okay.
Yes, keep track of your OSHA recordables, but talk to your people.
I love that, not just data points,
Right.
but the actual humans dealing with these hazards every day.
What kind of conversations should we be having?
Ask your nurses, your lab techs, anyone handling sharps.
Yeah.
What makes them nervous?
Okay.
Where are those close calls happening that aren't making it onto an official report?
Because a near miss today could easily be an injury tomorrow.
Exactly.
I bet those folks have insights we'd never get just by analyzing incident reports.
Exactly. Maybe the sharps container placement isn't ideal in a busy ER.
Right.
Maybe they need a different type of safety device, one that's easier to use with their specific tasks.
Yeah.
These are things you only uncover by listening to the people on the front lines.
And that builds trust, too. Shows them you're not just there to enforce rules,
Right?
but to genuinely keep them safe.
It's about shifting the mindset from compliance to caring.
Yeah.
When workers feel heard, they're more likely to buy into the safety procedures.
Right.
And that's where lasting change happens.
So to wrap this all up for our listeners, it sounds like the key takeaway is
Yeah.
knowledge is power, but action is what truly protects people.
Great.
Understand the OSHA regulations, yes, but go deeper.
Yeah.
Analyze your data. Talk to your employees.
Right.
Be proactive in finding solutions that fit your specific workplace.
Couldn't have said it better myself. And remember, this isn't just about avoiding fines or checking boxes. It's about fostering a culture of safety where everyone feels valued and protected.
Yes.
Because at the end of the day, that's what really matters.
Excellent advice. Thanks for joining us.
Thanks for having me.